All right, joining me now from the House, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes, ranking member of the House Intel Committee. Congressman, great to have you with us. I want to start where I did with the senator on what's unfolding in Israel. I mean, Hamas taking credit for a shelling that has caused Israeli casualties, closing an aid crossing. Was that the whole purpose? I mean, it doesn't sound like they are reliable negotiators or, good faith partners in any of this, trying to get the hostages home.
Yeah, well, of course they're not good faith negotiators. They're terrorists, right? And they will do whatever they need to do to advance their own interests. Now, in any negotiation, particularly a negotiation like this, people have interests, even if they are terrorists. And obviously, Hamas has an interest in ceasing, at least temporarily, the obliteration of their military capability. So, you never sound too optimistic about any negotiation in the Middle East. But, if we can get whatever it is, a temporary break in the fighting so that the hostages can be released. That's the thing that never gets mentioned here. That, I think, would be a good step in the right direction. And Shannon, if you'll give me just 1 minute, I work very closely with Marco Rubio. We're both on the Gang of Eight. I don't know that I've ever seen him quite as over-caffeinated this morning, but he said that you never asked Democrats on the topic of abortion where they should be. Baloney, malarkey. Shannon, as you know, prior to the Dobbs decision in the Supreme Court, Democrats and most of America supported the concept of Roe v. Wade, and the concept was that you could have an abortion up to the point of viability, and states could decide, what that was. And so, again, I'm not quite sure if Marco just had too much coffee this morning, but,
I would say
the notion that we're extremists on this topic is just madness.
But I have asked a number of Democrats, because there are multiple states in this country that do allow abortion until a due date. That's factual. And I've asked Democrats whether they're okay with that, and many of them have had a very hard time answering that question for me.
Yeah, but Shannon, here's the thing, right? If an abortion occurs prior to natural birth, it doesn't occur because mom says, oh, I changed my mind. It occurs because there is the absolute rarest of medical events that puts the life of the mother in danger or the life of the child in danger. To have Marco Rubio go on national television and say that Democrats are extremists that believe you should be able to kill a child frankly, that's what's wrong with our politics. And you know that, and I know that. Again, those situations where a mother has carried a baby to term and something happens in the last week, that is the most horrendous of situations. And if a doctor says you're going to die if you deliver that, that is the most horrendous and personal of situations. But it's also vanishingly rare. And I know, based on what the people of Kansas did in their plebiscite about abortion, that in this country, most Americans believe, as most Democrats believe, that this is a decision up to the point of viability that should be made by a woman and her doctor, not by a bunch of guys wearing ties and suits in national legislatures.
Well, I will say the Guttmacher Institute, which has been aligned with Planned Parenthood, so clearly not a pro-life organization, they document this and say there are actually thousands of late-term abortions, third trimester abortions every year. And so people do have to have a conversation about the fact that that does happen.
Yeah, that's right. And again, most of those late abortions are medically related. I mean, if the idea is that there are women out there who carry a child for 7 months, and needless to say, I have not carried a child, but if you've carried a child for 7 or 8 months, and the idea is that lots of women then say, oh, guess what? I don't want to do this. That's just not what happens. And okay, I haven't actually looked at the Guttmacher numbers. Thousands. Shannon, as you know, this is a country of some 330, 340 million people. So again, all I'm saying is that, for Marco Rubio to say that nobody ever asks people, Democrats in particular, where they are on abortion, nonsense. Democrats are generally where the American people are, which is where the world was before the Dobbs decision, that until the point of viability, this is a decision to be made between a woman and her doctor.
Well, we'll see, because states are now hammering this out. There is a patchwork that is very, very diverse across this country. But let me get back to the Middle East, because I want to make sure that we get you on this. There are a number of senators who are now worried about the fact that the administration seems to be, according to numerous reports, considering the idea of bringing people here from Gaza. A number of senators who are worried about the guardrails on that have written to the president saying this: with more than a third of Gazans supporting the Hamas militants, we are not confident that your administration can adequately vet this high-risk population for terrorist ties and sympathies before admitting them to the U.S. Now, this comes on the heels of an inspector general report from DHS saying they really blew it repeatedly with Afghan vetting Afghan refugees, saying this: DHS may have admitted or paroled individuals into the U.S. who pose a risk to national security and the safety of local communities. They admit there was a lot of trouble with doing this with the Afghan refugees. Are you confident you can tell the American people that people coming from Gaza will be appropriately vetted before they take up residence here?
Well, what I can tell you is that this is not a thing, right? The only way that people can apply for refugee status is if they go where they are, and begin a very lengthy process of vetting. And then once they're vetting and vetted in whatever location they are further vetted by DHS and the federal government and others, and then they are admitted. And while, a number of Republican senators and over-caffeinated Florida senators may want to be selling an awful lot of fear right now, I would challenge you to come up with examples where refugees who have been vetted have come to this country and committed acts of terrorism. And the reason that's a very hard thing to do is because it hasn't happened, right? So now no process is perfect, but the point is it's not a thing because there's no capacity in Gaza right now to vet people on the ground. And while we will continue to admit refugees from around the world, as is our international legal obligation, it is a very strong vetting process. Now, I understand lots of people have an interest in painting Joe Biden as weak and generating a lot of fear, but the reality is it's really, really hard to find examples of vetted refugees who have come to this country and committed an act of terrorism or even a crime.
No. I think it is fair to say that we've covered a number of cases where people have come here on paroles and vettings and have committed crimes. Now, you can quibble on the issue of terrorism, but DHS itself says we missed the mark on a lot of Afghan refugees. So it's up to them, and we wish them the best. The administration says no announcement on that yet, so we don't even know and have details on a potential program. Congressman, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.